The mind overpowered by both components of this hindrance is deprived of its clarity in yet another way. Just as clear water when whipped up by the wind develops waves and is no longer clear so that things lying on the bottom cannot be seen, so the mind becomes stirred up and agitated by this hindrance. Avikapa means absence of shaking, absence of any swaying this way and that. Applied to the mind, it indicates that the mind is steady and firm by itself and able to withstand disturbances without wavering. The mind is then in its original state, hence this factor is counted as another aspect of the mind's unique excellence. This virtue can be developed only by earnest practice, because it is in the nature of the mind to change and waver. 5. Skeptical doubt, Visakiccha, is paired with defining of things, Dhammavavatana. Visakiccha means skepticism or doubt, lack of confidence in the method of practice. A meditator with this hindrance has no confidence in Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, in the enlightenment of the Buddha, or in the way of practice laid down by him. He believes in them only half-heartedly. The most important aspect of doubt is that relating to the meditator's own practice. Overpowered by this uncertainty, his mind loses its clarity and is unable to see things clearly, as they really are. It is like water that is clear but in darkness, so that, once again, things on the bottom cannot be seen. Dhammavavatana means knowing something precisely and clearly, having no doubt at all about it. Every person ought in his way of life and in his job to have some ideal, and in his work, both mental and physical, everyone ought to know what is good and what is bad, what is beneficial and what is harmful, what constitutes happiness and what constitutes suffering, which is the way to downfall and which is the way to success, to the attainment of the highest fruits and ultimately nirvana.
Dhammavavatana derives from study by way of listening, reading, thinking, inquiring, discussing, and remembering. Until one has knowledge and is certain about it at all times. One should have no doubt or hesitation as to what to do and how to do it. Doubt disturbs and torments the mind deeply. Dhammavavatana does just the opposite and is therefore one of the factors of unique excellence. In the original text, only 5 hindrances are mentioned, though in some post-canonical works, for instance the Pisambhadmagga, another 3 are listed. These 3 extra hindrances are the opposites of the last 3 factors of unique excellence, as follows. 1. Ignorance or lack of knowledge, avijja or ana, contrasts with knowledge, na. 2. Aversion, or rati, contrasts with joy, pamujja. 3. The totality of unprofitable mental states, sabbakusala dhamma, contrasts with the profitable states, sabkusala dhamma. Clearly, ignorance is included in doubt and aversion in ill will. The totality of unprofitable states not specifically named is included in one or other of the 5 hindrances. Thus the number of hindrances is in fact unlimited. Any mental impurity can be reckoned a hindrance. The Pali term pankanvara, 5 hindrances, is the one originally used by the Buddha. It has become such a familiar term that people know of no hindrances other than those traditional 5. The term vara means, in general, that which hinders by covering. Then varas or hindrances cover up and obstruct good qualities and the way to nirvana. But in the case of concentration, the commentaries define anvara as something that covers beings or the minds of beings, preventing them from knowing the truth or Dhamma. In other words, anvara is that which covers the way lead ing beings out of suffering. What is covered is the factors of unique excellence. The following example may clarify this: renunciation, nikkhamma, that is to say, renunciation of sensual desire,
is a way out for Aryans. The Aryans, or noble ones, become free of suffering by way of renunciation. Conversely, sensual desire, kamakanda, covers up renunciation, obstructs it, suppresses it, and grows at the expense of it. Hence sensual desire is reckoned in vara, something covering and obscuring the truth that leads the noble ones out of suffering. Worldlings are not aware that renunciation is the Aryan's way out from suffering, because their minds are clouded and covered over by sensual desire. 2 cases have to be distinguished. In the first, the factors of unique excellence are covered by hindrances and cannot arise in the mind. In the second, the mind, being covered by the hindrances, cannot realize the factors of unique excellence. In either case the result is the same. The mind is perpetually veiled by hindrances. In simple words, a hindrance or nvara is something that covers the mind's, making it depressed, uneasy, distracted, depriving it of peace and happiness. The immediate aim of concentration practice is to free the mind of hindrances. The state in which the mind is without hindrances and that in which the mind is concentrated are one and the same. Sometimes, when the mind is free from hindrances, natural concentration is attained automatically. But the kind of concentration we are discussing here is that in which the hindrances are destroyed by active practice. Natural concentration frees the mind from hindrances only by chance. This is called Tadanga Vimudi, a state of freedom that comes about because the specific beneficial factors necessary for neutralizing the corresponding hindrances happen, just by chance, to arise in the mind. The other kind of concentration is that which is developed by active practice and by whose power the hindrances are driven out. The state of freedom it results in is called Vikambana Vimudi, but as soon as the mind returns to the unconcentrated condition,
the hindrances come back because their roots have not yet been completely destroyed. To destroy the roots of the hindrances, a higher level of practice is needed, namely vipassana. The state of freedom in which the mind is never again disturbed by the hindrances is called Samukkata Vimudi, which means complete destruction of or emancipation from all hindrances. So, there are three states of freedom from hindrances, according to whether that freedom was attained by chance, by tranquility meditation, or by insight meditation. The first and second states are temporary, the third is permanent. The meditator should not merely study and remember matters concerning the hindrances. He should also know and see clearly in his own mind just what they are and be aware of their presence or absence. He should know in which ways hindrances disturb him. This will make him realize just how dangerous they are so that he will be resolute and unwavering in his attempts to destroy them. Then, even though the hindrances may not have been completely destroyed, he can live happily in the here and now, since he knows how to cope with them. And eventually he will put an end to them completely. Obviously, freedom from the hindrances is in itself happiness. This is the first step and is also the foundation for the further practice, which will eventually destroy the roots of all the hindrances completely. Thus the nvara may be destroyed utterly, and that is the permanent extinction of suffering. The stage of the practice with which we are concerned here is concentration. The practice of insight comes later. As far as the hindrances are concerned, our present task is to practice tranquility meditation in order to restrain the hindrances and remove them from the mind by developing the qualities opposed to them. The technique for attaining this concentrated state is mindfulness of breathing, tethering the mind to the post of breathing until all the beneficial factors arise.
As each of these factors is unique and opposed to a specific hindrance, the hindrances have no chance to overpower the mind as long as mindfulness is maintained when the mind is fixed on the breathing or whatever the object of concentration happens to be. Hindrances are absent and only beneficial factors present. The meditator must understand clearly how to develop the factors of unique excellence. Renunciation, for example, can be said to come into existence at the very moment of going into retreat in order to practice, and to increase from then on. It starts to develop and establish itself from the stage of counting or concentrating on the breathing itself. And by the stage of the counterpart sign, Paiganamitta, it is perfectly developed. Other specific beneficial factors such as goodwill are developed in the same way. All this will be easier to understand after we have discussed each factor of absorption, jhanaga, and its corresponding factor of unique excellence. We turn therefore to the factors of absorption. The Pali term jhanaga literally means constituent of absorption. No factor by itself constitutes absorption, several must be present together to make the jhana. The first jhana has 5 constituents, the second 3, the third 2, and the fourth also 2. The 5 factors of the first jhana are vitakka, vikara, piti, sukha, and ekaggata. They are explained as follows. 1. Vitakka. This word generally has the meaning of thinking or considering. But as a technical term in meditation it does not mean that unless, that is, we understand by thinking not consideration of some matter but close attention of the mind to one single object. The factor vitakka is poorly developed during counting and connecting, and fully developed during contact and fixing. To be understood properly, Vitakka must be considered together with Vikara. 2. The term Vikara usually means investigation, but in the technical language of meditation it means something different.
It refers to the state in which the mind thoroughly knows the concentration object, namely the breath. Vikara first appears in the stage of connecting, see page 150. Vitakka and Vikara are best explained on the analogy of examining an object. Vitakka corresponds to the act of looking at the object and fixing the eyes on it. Vikara corresponds to seeing and knowing the object thoroughly. Or they may be compared to the sprinkling of water. When the water touches the earth on which it is sprinkled, that is Vitakka. When the water is absorbed by the earth, that is Vikara. Again, there is the well-known analogy of training a calf. The calf to be trained is separated from its mother and tethered to a post. The calf is the mind, the post is the breath, and the tether is mindfulness. The calves being tied to the post is Vitakka, it's prancing around the post Vikara. The meditator should observe the distinction between these two and should also understand how it is that they may be present at the same time. The state of the calves being tied is simultaneous with its prancing, and vice versa. Although these two states, being tied and prancing, are simultaneous, they are not the same in nature. Having understood this, the meditator will understand how Vitakka and Vikara are simultaneously present in the first jhana. This can be further clarified by the analogy of the man polishing a pot. The man holds the pot with his left hand and polishes it with his right. The acts of holding and polishing are simultaneous. The left hand corresponds to Vitakka, the right to Vikara. To sum up, Vitakka and Vikara are two simultaneous and interrelated characteristics of the mind. Vitakka being the concentration on the sign and Vikara the close association with it. 3. Piti generally means rapture, and this is the meaning it has in the technical language of meditation also. It is defined as joy dissociated from sensual desire.
Rapture free from sensual desire results only from such feelings as, I have achieved what was to be done, I shall surely succeed, and the like. This kind of rapture is associated with renunciation rather than with sensual desire. Piti could, then, be defined as rapture resulting from success in overcoming sensual desire. Rapture is regarded as a wholesome mental factor, satasika, belonging to the group of feelings, Vedanakhanda. This is the difference between rapture, piti, and happiness. Sukha rapture belongs to the group of mental formations and happiness to that of feelings. Rapture is the source of happiness. 4. Sukha means happiness that arises because the mind is not disturbed by the hindrances and is suffused with rapture. In everyday life, when we enjoy rapture, it is impossible not to feel happy as well, but such happiness lasts only a short while. More lasting is the happiness that arises when the mind is undisturbed by the hindrances. Once the nature of happiness is understood, it becomes easy to see that rapture and happiness are two different states, though they can, like Vitakka and Vikara, exist simultaneously. Ekaggata, which means mental one-pointedness. The mind in this state has just one single object, on which it is concentrated, just one point, on which it is fixed and established. Now, ordinarily the mind skips and flutters, from object to object, always shifting and changing, being light and easily influenced. Only when it has been properly trained can it become steady and fixed on a single object for any length of time. In concentration practice, ekaggata refers to the state in which the mind is firm and steady following the practice of fixing, hapan. On the counterpart sign at, the stage before fixing the mind is only intermittently one-pointed. Ekaggata is concentration or samadhi in the true sense of the word, and some texts ekaggata is also called adhini, fixity.